You know that feeling? When your own mind feels like this tangled, chaotic map you just can't make sense of? Well, today we're diving into a really powerful therapeutic technique that's all about, well, mapping that mind. We're going to see how it helps bring some real clarity to all that chaos. Right. So that's the big question, isn't it? How do you even start to map a mind that feels chaotic? I mean, when someone's sense of who they are is just shattered and overwhelming, where's the starting point to find any kind of order? It's a huge challenge, not just for the person going through it, but for anyone trying to help. Okay, so before we get to the solution, we really have to get a handle on the problem itself. And believe me, this is a deeply personal, super disorienting experience that often comes from some really tough stuff in a person's life, like trauma. So the source material actually has a name for this state. It's called the kosmena, which translates to the chaotic self. And look, this is way more than just feeling a bit confused or having an off day. It's this constant state of fragmentation, like your own thoughts, your feelings, your whole identity are a bunch of puzzle pieces just scattered on the floor. And a lot of the time, this is because some kind of overwhelming experience just shatters our internal story, almost like a defense mechanism, right? But it leaves the story of who we are totally in pieces.
And this really breaks down what that experience is like. Just try to imagine it, not knowing where your feelings stop and someone else's start. You're just constantly drowning in these intense emotions, anger, sadness, whatever it is, and you've got no coherent story of who you are or how you even got to this point. And that kind of deep internal confusion, yeah, it can absolutely lead to behaviors that push people away, or even worse, are self-destructive.
Okay, this gets right to the heart of the issue. Now, I know there's a bunch of text from the source here, but let me boil it down for you. The key thing is this. For someone with a chaotic self, the past is never really past. It's always, and I mean always, bleeding into the present moment, setting off these huge, intense reactions. The source makes it clear that this makes just getting through a normal day incredibly difficult, because those old wounds are just being ripped open again and again. So, you've got this massive internal storm. What do you do? Well, this brings us to the tool that's at the very core of what we're talking about today. It's a technique called empathetic description. Now, the name pretty much says it all, but don't let the simplicity fool you. Its power is right there, in its focus. This isn't about the therapist giving advice or, analyzing dreams. It's all about them becoming this clear, compassionate voice that simply reflects the patient's own unspoken, jumbled-up reality right back at them. This quote from the source really nails the essence of the whole thing. It's a total deep dive into someone else's world. The therapist is basically asking themselves, okay, what would it feel like to be you in this exact moment? And then they say that out loud. No judgment, no strings attached, just the observation. And this is such a crucial distinction. We talk about sympathy, that's feeling for someone. Empathy is feeling with them. But empathetic description, that takes it to a whole other level. It's an active, collaborative process. It's about building a bridge of understanding together, right into the heart of that chaotic inner world.
So, what does this actually look like in practice? The best way to think about it, the most powerful metaphor, really, is a mirror. Think about it. For someone who has maybe never seen themselves clearly, the therapist acts as the first, clear, undistorted reflection they've ever had. It all kind of breaks down into these 4 steps. First, the therapist has to just sense what's going on under the surface. Then comes this genuine leap of imagination, really trying to step into their shoes. Now, step 3 is the big one, describing what they imagine, but neutrally. Saying something like, wow, it sounds like when that happens, a part of you feels totally alone and invisible. And then you get to step 4, and this can be a really powerful moment. The patient hears their own inner world spoken out loud, and they have that, yes, that's it, that's exactly what it feels like moment. And that leads us right to the ultimate goal here, which the source text points out. It's all about making the unconscious conscious. Or to put it another way, it's about giving the person the words for their own soul. Because think about it, once you can name a feeling, you're not powerless against it anymore. You can start to understand it, manage it, and actually weave it into your story, instead of just being completely steamrolled by it.
Okay, so this is where it gets really transformative. What's the outcome of all this work? What happens when it's successful? Well, you go from that state of total internal chaos to a place of cohesion, a sense of wholeness. This chart lays it out perfectly. It's the before and after. You go from having this broken, fragmented narrative to one that actually makes sense. You go from being like a ship just tossed around by the waves of your emotions to being the captain, actually navigating them. It's a huge shift from being reactive and confused to being self-aware and clear, from an unstable sense of self to one that finally feels solid, real.
And the cool thing is these benefits just ripple out into every single part of a person's life. When you actually know who you are and you can manage your own inner world, you can finally build healthy boundaries. You can start having relationships that are based on real connection, not just, reacting out of fear. You really do become the author of your own life story.
And that's exactly what the source text here is getting at. Let me just pull out the key idea for you. The whole process helps build those internal boundaries that just weren't there before. And what does that do? It calms that inner storm. It creates this safe space inside yourself where real, lasting personal growth can finally take root.
So if you take away one thing, let it be this. The therapist isn't some mechanic fixing a broken machine. They're a mirror. That's it. Patiently reflecting and putting words to what they see until the person looking in that mirror can finally recognize and understand and maybe even embrace the person they see looking back at them.
And that kind of leaves us with a bigger question, doesn't it? I mean, yeah, this is an incredible clinical tool, but the principle behind it is totally universal. Think about it. In our own lives, with our friends, our family, our coworkers, what could change if we stopped jumping in to fix things or give advice, and instead just tried to hold up that clear, compassionate mirror for them? What really happens when we just try to see the world through their eyes for a minute?